media type that we used to see a lot more of than we do today is coaxial cabling. Coaxial cabling was popular back in the early to mid 90s and late 80s when it was used in 10 base 2 and 10 base 5 Ethernet networks. We don't see it much anymore, but back in those days, you would have a coaxial cable that would weave its way through your office space, from one desk to another desk, from one office to another office, and in workstations like a PC would tap in to this coaxial cable. You see on screen what's called a T connector, and we would take our PC and connect into that T connector, and the specific kind of connector being used here is called a BNC connector, and different literature defines BNC differently. Some literature will say that BNC refers to a British naval connector, while other literature says that BNC stands for Bayonet Neil Consolman. But however you want to define it, with this connector, you would take the cable, the coaxial cable running from a PC, and you would push and twist it into this connector to lock it in. And this coaxial cable might look similar to what you use in your home for your cable TV. However, it's different. It's a different kind of coaxial cable. What you use in your home for cable TV is probably either RG59 or RG6. RG6 being the newer and better standard, but those cables have an impedance of 75 ohms. The coaxial cable used in networks has an impedance of only 50 ohms. And the specific type of cable that was used for 10 base 2, that's the thinner version, sometimes called ThinNet, was RG58. It had an impedance of 50 ohms. The thicker cable, used by 10 base 5, also referred to as ThickNet, it was a cable that was similar to RG8, but it had some extra shielding. A metallic braid went around the outside of the cable, gave you a little bit of extra protection from electromagnetic interference. Again, coaxial cabling, very popular back in the days of 10 base 2 and 10 base 5. We really don't see it much these days for network use, unless you want to consider the fact that many people get broadband access through their cable television company using a cable modem. From that perspective, I guess you could argue that we still are using coaxial cable in modern day networks.